Welcome back to another text rehearsal lesson. In these lessons, I'm going to try to give you some tools to equip you for learning to make your voice, your speech, more engaging to listen to. That's basically what the text is for. Really, what the text is for is practicing how to say what you're saying, practicing how to say things. When you practice improv, you practice coming up with stuff off the top of your head. With the text, practice how to say those things. It's very difficult to practice how to say things and improv. It's not impossible, it's totally possible. You can do that. But I find it helps to focus on just a few things or just one thing per read. And it's really, really good if the lines are already here for you so that you don't have to think what to say at the same time. You can just put all your attention on how you're saying things. Then you can build the muscle memory for whatever that thing is you're focusing on. There are three areas I like to look at: connection, emphasis, and modulation. Connection's the deep one, really, and without the connection, the emphasis and modulation will always feel a bit mechanical. You can find just by hitting certain words that the meaning of what you're saying will change. You'll change your intention, you'll change your thought naturally. But I have found with a lot of people that I've coached over the years, there's a certain limit, and we all have our sort of sticking points where, say, if you are used to a very low volume, going to a very high volume is going to feel very unnatural. And so if we just do the 1 out of 10, say if you go from 1 being barely above a whisper to 10 being absolutely bawling it, even getting to a 5, if your comfortable zone is say a 2 to 3 to 4, and maybe your comfortable zone is like a 2 and maybe slightly louder 3 and maybe slightly louder 4, and that's generally where you sit. Going to a 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to do that because of my microphone. You got a really nice buzz there. Is going to be really unnatural, really uncomfortable, actually. And people will often struggle, I find, if we do that, to find a reason. You need a reason to have that higher volume. If I say like, hey, somebody owes you money, they're walking by on the street, there they go, they've been shafting you for a few weeks, there they go, they're avoiding you, get their attention, hey, they're ignoring you, they're trying to go to, hey! Then you get the volume. Because you have an intention to stop that person from reasonably having the excuse that they couldn't hear you. Or whatever it is. There's not just volume in modulators, there's tone, there's speed, there's pitch, there's pause, there's melody, musicality, rhythm. All of these things that are basically up and down, scale of 1 to 10, or different modes. Modulators. Emphasis are the things that you emphasize, keywords. You make those clear, you imbue them with a certain quality. Images, you slow down for those, you paint them in your audience's mind. You don't have to do that for every single keyword or every single image. That you'll see just instinctively when you go through the text that there's a certain place for it all. And that's really what the connection is for, is to give you a certain grounding so that when you do the text, you just focus on one thing. This text, The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe, our speaker is remembering a time. He says in the second verse, distinctly I remember. Distinctly I remember. 'Twas in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. He's recounting the story. Otherwise, why is there that distinctly I remember? I love it because it gives us such an insight into his mind, his state of mind, and the job when you're looking at a text is you're going to reverse engineer what you do when you improvise. When you improvise, you have an intention to speak. I don't know what I'm going to say right now. I don't have a script. I have an intention to teach you how to say things, how to sound more engaging, and I'm just driving off that intention. Thoughts are gathering around it, and then it's going out of my mouth. Intention, thought, sound. With the text, the intention is already in there somewhere, hiding beneath these dead words on this page. And we have to penetrate down through the thought and try to get into the intention that the writer was putting in. But it's not even just that, because you could do loads of different ways of doing this that would be right. An infinite number, actually. But there are certain things that you wouldn't want to stray too far from. I even hesitate saying that because it puts a limit on what you can do. And when you practice text and you're home and you're just in a nice quiet space, home alone, and you're thinking, oh, how do I just sound a bit more engaging? Go bananas. No limits. I could do this as like a stand-up set. There's humor in this. There's comedy in this. But he's recounting a story that, as far as we can tell, is very much to do with grief. And the way I see it actually is he's like reminiscing on a certain memory. And it'd be interesting to imagine a context. Maybe he's sitting around the fireplace with a few friends. For some reason, I feel like it could be there's like a stranger there as well, like maybe a friend and a stranger, like his friend's friend. And maybe they're talking about, maybe the friend's friend, went through like a really rough patch recently. Maybe a loved one died. He's going through grief. And then maybe they're talking about their experiences with grief and like how it can really mess with your head. And then he says, once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah. I feel like I totally botched that ah. He needs to remember, only this and nothing more. I'm going to remember the embers and seeing the embers flying out, and I'd see some shadow, and it would make me like catch my attention, and like everything, every little thing, even the embers from the fire, were projecting some sort of ghost on the floor, and I was like seeing all this creepy stuff because I was in my grief-stricken state. Ah, distinctly I remember. I'm doing the acting, but I need to do it on the R. The R's are hard. Are they hard? Ah, ah, ah. Distinctly I remember. It was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Merely this, and nothing more. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. The fact is I was napping, and so faintly you came rapping." I'm trying to get my words right. I'm trying to learn this piece. And so faintly, and so gently, gently rapping, faintly tapping. Gently rapping, faintly tapping. And so gently... Yeah, no, that was right. And so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door. It's right here in front of me. Let me start this again. Do better click. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken. Again, I need to go back. So we did the first 3 paragraphs originally. Let's look at the 4th paragraph. Presently, my soul grew stronger, semicolon. So what I did then, hesitating then no longer, comma, "Sir," comma, said I, comma, "or madam," comma, "truly your forgiveness I implore," and then this is all quotation. "Sir" and "or madam" is onwards is quotation. Okay, presently, keyword. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, or "Madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door." I feel like I could just stumble all the way through that. I want to go back, like physically. I want to be back here and come forward, saying it like I'm just gotten up. Just, "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more." And that sends him right back into that state of being all weirded out by the fires and the embers. Nice. I think that works. Do you buy that? Would you buy that? Would you believe that? It's kind of hard with the rhyming and the rhythm. To make it sound like natural. And have a tendency, I noticed, to go into that poetic voice. Presently my soul grew stronger. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not natural in that way that we're going to need it to, because I think this is a really raw, deep poem. What's amazing about it is it has that humour and this incredible rhythm all the way through. Let's look at the rhythm on the next one. Ready? Rhythm, meter, verse is usually dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. Iambic pentameter, 5. That's all Shakespeare, mostly. The witches speak a little different in Macbeth. When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, where the place upon the heath, there to meet with Macbeth. Something like that. There's actually a pause there. Missing pause in the line beat. And they start, instead of dee-dum, 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 like to be or not to be, instead of unstressed syllable, stressed syllable, they'll start when should stressed syllable. Like here. Deep into that darkness peering. Deep into that darkness peering. Iambic tetrameter, 1, 2, 3, 4, the same as the witches. Long I stood there, wondering, fearing. On the website I got it off, it's written with like 4, like those 2 lines together on the same line, which I think is interesting. I don't know, but if he has chosen it like that, that's kind of interesting because it's like, it would be basically 8 lines of verse normally in tetrameter, which is a little bit more supernatural because it's shorter, it's got more rhythm and sort of like zaniness to it, like the witches. It sounds like a magic spell. And it's all this rhyming all the way through. And he does rhyme like, deep into that darkness peering. Long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. So the first line is like peering, and then on the end of that line, fearing. So that would be like A. Or if we did it in the 8 line breakdown, it would be A, B. That's why I think it's just written in one, because do they sometimes? Yeah, sometimes they rhyme in the middle as well. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken, was the whispered word Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word Lenore. So it would be, if it was in the 8 line, it would be A, B, C, mortal before. D, broken token. D, spoken. E, Lenore. Oh no, wait, that's back to before. C. What the devil? Yeah, this is wild. So he's going deep into that darkness peering, A. Long I stood there wondering, fearing, A. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal, B. Ever dared to dream before, C. But the silence was unbroken, D. And the stillness gave no token, D. And the only word there spoken, D. Was the whispered word Lenore, C. Rhymes with before. I think that's pretty confusing though in that 8 line thing, don't you think? If we just did it in the way I've got it here, where you can see like, instead of like deep into that darkness peering, and then a new line, long I stood there wondering, fearing, and then a new line. It's deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. So those are 2 lines. Up to fearing and then up to before. The only difficulty then is when you aren't marking the rhyme scheme, you'll miss out all the rhymes in the middle of the line. So I think actually it was better to do it that way. Okay, so we got let's track back over this. We've got Maybe I could write this down. And then we don't have to keep doing it. Deep into that darkness peering. A. Long I stood there wondering, fearing. A. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal be ever dared to dream before. C. But the stillness was unbroken. D. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. D. The only word there spoken, D, was the whispered word Lenore. C. This I whispered, and an echo, E, murmured back the word Lenore. C. Merely this and nothing more. C. Now let's see. We got A, B, C, D, 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 C, E, C, C. So let's have a look at the first one. Let's see if it follows, right? Once upon a midnight dreary, A, yes. While I pondered weak and weary, A, yes. Over many a quaint and curious, B, yep. Volume of forgotten lore, C, yep. While I nodded nearly napping, D, suddenly there came a tapping, D, as of someone gently rapping, D, rapping at my chamber door, C, it's tracking perfectly. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, E, tapping at my chamber door, C, only this and nothing more, C, it's exactly the same. Crazy. That's crazy. I can't believe I only just noticed that. I knew it had something like that. It was some sort of recurring thing. Let's see if it's the same again in the next one. Distinctly I remember, A. It was in the bleak December, A. And each separate dying ember, A. 3 A's. What the? Okay, so we got the first one is the copy. Copy. Same. So this one we've got triple A. Triple A. Delivering you the best roadside poetry you can imagine. And each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. B. Eagerly I wished the morrow. C. Vainly I sought to borrow. C. It's totally different. From my books to cease of sorrow. C. Oh, that's where the D's would be actually. So it is the same, like 3 rhyming in those 3 lines. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books to cease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore. B. Floor. For the rare and radiant maiden. D. Whom the angels name Lenore. B. Nameless here forevermore. B. Bonkers. Yeah, so he's got little changes here and there. Its first verse is A, B, C, D, 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 C, E, C, C. Next verse is A, B, C, 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 B, D, B, B. And the silken sound and certain rustling of each purple curtain. And the silken sad and certain rustling. Oh. And the silken sad and certain rustling of each purple curtain. Oh yeah, that rhymes. And the silken sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terror. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. Nothing's rhyming with fantastic. So that's the odd one out on this verse so far. So that now to still the beating of my heart I stood repeating, 'tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. He always rhymes those 3. So the recurring pattern so far is that the first 2 lines might change a little bit on the middle, yeah, there's like some sort of rhyming code in here. It's good. It makes it like different and not so repetitive. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors. In the previous one, it was Ember, which actually rhymed with remember, December. Dreary, weary, curious was like the odd one out. So that's happening again on this one. Oh, I wonder if it's like, if every other verse is the same. Let me write it out, let's see. And the silken satin certain, A. Rustling of each purple curtain, A. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic, B. Terrors never felt before, C. So that now to still the beating, D. Of my heart I stood repeating, D. 'Tis some visitor entreating, D. Entrance at my chamber door, C. Some late visitor entreating, D. Entrance at my chamber door, C. This it is and nothing more, C. Ah, no, it's not. It's different every time by the looks of it so far. One more. We'll do one more on this page, and then we'll leave this because I don't know if this is like super exciting for people, but it's kind of interesting to me at least. Presently, my soul and I'm doing this to help you, but I'm also doing it because I'm interested. And look, get interested. if you wanna change your speech, learn these kinds of things. I know it's a bit like an English lit class, and they would say to you, "Why are the curtains blue? Why are they blue?" And it's like, I don't know, they're just blue. He just made them blue. Wrong, wrong. He didn't just make them blue. Maybe he did, but he could have made them green, or he could have made them yellow, or he could have made them black, or he could have not mentioned them. But he decided, or she decided, they were blue. They decided, and they put it in their pen or the typewriter, and they put that on the. They imagined, they saw that. Why? Like there's the classic English meme. Why? But why? Because what's happening in their creative thought, in their imagination, is coming from a feeling, a deeper feeling of something else that articulates the human condition, the experience that we human beings are having here. And everything has a cost to it. For that to come up in the mind, there's like a certain essence being burnt. And then the vapor that comes up in the mind, it forms these shadows, these shapes, and then that's what comes out onto the page. We were taught English in a really boring way that sucked the soul out of it. And we're here to heal that trauma. But mostly we're here to learn to get variation in our speech, and one way to get that is to mark the variation in speeches. So we're looking at the rhyme scheme. Presently my soul grew stronger, A. Hesitating then no longer, A. Sir, said I, or madam, truly, Sir, said I, or madam, truly, B. Your forgiveness I implore, C. But the fact is I was napping, D. And so gently you came rapping, D. And so faintly you came tapping, D. Tapping at my chamber door, C. That I scarce was sure I heard you. That I scarce was sure that I scarce was sure I heard you. E. D. Here I open wide the door. C. Darkness there and nothing more. C. So first verse. A. B. C. We'll just do the first two lines, right? Of each verse. A, B, C. Sorry. Yeah. First verse, A, B, C. Then A, B. then AABC, then AABC, then AABC. So only the second one had the triple A. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Then we've got the next two lines for each verse are D, 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 C. Then C, 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 B. Then D, 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 C. Then D, 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 C. Then D, 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 C. So the middle two lines are the same rhyme scheme for every verse on the page so far. Interesting. And then the last three, it's not just the letters. The letters signify the rhyme that came in the verse. They're all three the same, and then the last one different. C, 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 B, D, 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 C, D, 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 C, D, 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 C. Only one of them was moved because the A, we had a triple A on the second verse. So that one got shifted along one. Then we've got the last three lines. The last line of each verse ends just like that. Oh yeah, so it would be nine lines each verse. So then we get DBB, DCC, ECC, ECC. I feel like there's more going on here, but I couldn't I couldn't spend too much time going on. Like some of it's like switched around in places. B D D B D B B. That's the last. Oh, the second one. First one is C E C C. So previous, and then a much later one, much later rhyme. Second one, it's got floor, Lenore, Lenore, evermore. Floors on the fourth, Lenore, Lenore, evermore. On the last couple. Did I miss one? Maiden? I don't know. The rhyme scheme's all over the shop. It's confusing. It's archaic. And we're going to move on. But just notice that, because in the delivery, you'll hear there's some bits speed up a little bit, and other bits flow a little better. That's what keeps it sort of surprising. We won't do it for the whole thing, because that's one page, and there's 2.5 more. So presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. And then listen to these D's. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. So he goes, somebody taps this thing, and you go, oh, what's that? Oh, sorry, I'm coming. I was just napping. I didn't even, I wasn't even sure I heard you for. Hello? And there's no one there. And then he goes, why does he say Lenore? Why? If we're a detective and we follow the motive, we think about what, or the ghost, what is ghost upon the floor? He's sitting there on supernatural stuff. He's thinking, is that her? Lenore? And then it whispers back, Lenore. And the bottom drops out. Can you imagine if you had like a dead relative and it's late at night, you go to your door, you open, there's no one there, you heard the tapping, and you decide, you go, wait, you feel the sense, like, is that somebody? Is that? And you say their name, and then the name comes back to you. Can you imagine what that would feel like? You'd be like, what the heck? And there's actually an explanation for this, because ravens do talk. So the raven says it from somewhere out there in the dark. So, back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Paulus just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. So he goes back inside his place. Like, what the? Back into my chamber, turning all my soul. Keyword chamber. Back into my chamber, turning. And the verb, we underline the verb. Back into my. I think the keyword could be back, actually. Back into my chamber. Back into my chamber. Maybe not. Back into my chamber, turning. Oh, my soul. It's like he just goes, nope. Woo, and just gets the heck out of there. Back into my chamber, turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. No punctuation in that line. Back into my chamber, turning, comma, all my soul within me burning, comma. Soon again I heard, keyword soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. It's getting louder. Before it was so gently you came rapping, so faintly you came tapping, that I scarce was sure I heard you. This is we can start to panic. Surely, no. Surely that's definitely something at my window. Let me see then what thereat is. I mean, you were just thinking it was Lenore, maybe. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still. It's like pounding in his chest. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. Hyphen. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. There's a mystery explore hyphen. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore hyphen. Semicolon and a hyphen. Okay. Let me see, comma. Okay, here's the sentences. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. Full stop. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Surely that is something at my window lattice, semicolon. Let me see, that is something at my window lattice, semicolon. Therefore, I have to see what that is. Let me see then what thereat is, comma. Let me see, comma, then, comma, what thereat is, comma, and this mystery explore, hyphen, thought gets broken. Let my heart be still a moment. So he's going, and when the thoughts are like that, let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. He's losing it. Losing it. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Okay, let's do this. Oh. Let's go from just before. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, the gnaw. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, the gnaw. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Curveball, not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped nor stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Paulus, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Obeisance is like regard for like high status, something like that. Mien of lord or lady, mien is like the attitude. So this raven comes in there stepped a stately raven, stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Like some magical entity, like God in raven form, like Odin comes in. Not that, and he just looks at him, flies up onto the bust of Paulus, doesn't care about him at all, perches on there. Paulus is Athena, goddess of wisdom. And so the metaphor is meant to be that grief, the raven is sort of like grief, perching above the bust of Paulus, wisdom. So grief dominates wisdom, sits on top of it, and suppresses it in this context. Just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. So he's like, what the? And then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad for beguiling. sort of changing and sort of charming in a certain way. My sad fancy, I was all like, oh, no, oh, oh, my sorrow, I need to borrow from my books, it sees of sorrow, all of that. Look at this thing. It's just like there. By the grave and stern decorum ways presenting itself, of the countenance it wore, its sort of face and expression. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. I've played with the voices for this. Nevermore. It just doesn't work. It kills the vibe. Nevermore. How would they say it? I have heard ravens talk. It's kind of really creepy, actually. They can do high pitched. Nevermore. Nevermore. That sounds kind of creepy. Nevermore. 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 I don't think he goes like that. The ravens picked up a word from somewhere. It's heard it somewhere. Nevermore. 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 I don't know. Comments? Put it in the comments. What should I do for that? Which one? Nevermore. Number 1. Number 2. Nevermore. I think I prefer that one. There's one version of it that kind of works, and then another slightly different version that just doesn't work. What about nevermore? When I give it a bit of attitude. I think we can play with that as well as grief starts to warp his perception. Then this ebony bird, then this chooses the word ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, said I, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. So he starts talking to this raven. I have this sort of attitude. Maybe he doesn't need that. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, said I, art sure no craven, because you look fresh, you look pretty sharp. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. You got to pick your way through the words. Ghastly. Ugh, it's kind of shocking to look at. Ghastly. Grim. And it's just got that mean eye. Grim. Birds, they can be savage, They've got those beaks. Especially a raven, a bird of prey. Is a raven a bird of prey? I think it is. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. The night, as if it's like an ocean out there. And this in here is like the vessel in the middle of the cabin. I always think he's in a cabin of this guy's place. And out there is the nightly shore. Vast expanse of gloom in every direction. And here comes a wanderer, coming in a guest. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. tell me what thy lordly name is. On the night's Plutonian, tell me what thy lordly name. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. What do they call you out there? Quoth the raven. The raven says, quoth. What a great word, quoth. Use that today. Word of the day, quoth. The raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly. So I ask it a question, and it gives me an answer. It's like, nevermore. What's your name? Nevermore. I'm sorry. What? What's that? Marvelled. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly. Like the discourse plainly, it responded properly. This ungainly fowl, this wild beast. Though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, because his name's not Fred, but somehow it does sort of ring like that could be his name. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door. Image, slow down, bird above his chamber door, hyphen, bird or beast, I'm going to build on that thought, bird or beast, upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. That's his name. Did you ever see that? Did you ever see a bird like bird or beast? Did you ever see an animal or a dog called Nevermore? No animal's called Nevermore. Nobody calls their pet Nevermore or Forever or whatever like that, right? It's not the kind of word you'd use as a name. But maybe it's like a message from somewhere, from the night's Plutonian shore. Much I marvelled to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken, like this reply is actually spot on with what I was just saying. I just said, oh, you'll leave me again, just like all my friends, just like all my hopes. And the bird goes, Nevermore. Oh, you're gonna stick around? Broski. Startled, but at replying at the stillness, startled at the stillness in the stepped a stately raven. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some and he grasped it, because then we might go, oh, well, it's just saying that over and over. Like, it's just said it twice. Maybe that's like all it knows. Maybe that's what it said outside. It said nevermore. When I said Lenore, it said nevermore. Maybe it just echoed back what I said. Probably that. Startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore. till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, never, nevermore. Yeah, he probably just picked it up. He probably had like a master who went through all this unfortunate stuff and was always saying, "Oh, never more this, never more that, never more." And then the raven was like, "Never more," and then it flew off. And now it's saying that, or is it a message from the gods, from God? Who knows? From the devil, perhaps. What is this? What is this? Startled. Verb. Startled. Startled at the stillness, broken by reply so aptly spoken, and we want to do that without breathing after broken. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I. Doubtless, said I. What is like? I was startled, so then I go, no, it's nothing. It's just, it must have just gotten that from another master who just said it over and over. Startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom merciful disaster followed fast. Unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore. Right, I think we're coming towards the end of this session, and let's put it together. I'm going to try not to overact. It's always really hard to not overact. It's also very easy. Okay, here we go. Let's go from the tip top of Rooney. I always like to get the back to that context. Sitting by the fire with a friend, talking about grief. Oh yeah, I had this crazy time, and I ended up, I'm going through it. It really sucks. And yeah, grief really warps your mind, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It totally does. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Name this here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. The backlight's gone off, so my window lattice is gone. Surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon the bust of Paulus just above my chamber door, perched and sat, nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, said I, art sure no craven. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast, upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs that one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, evermore. And then we can go on. So we're about a little over halfway, and I think we'll park it there. But yeah, what do you notice? Which bits am I doing wrong? Where does it not land? Where does it not connect? If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one when maybe we'll try to blast through. There's just a page and a bit more. A page and a bit more left. I'm going to try and learn some more. I learned like the first page basically, but I'm still making mistakes. So we're going to come back to this maybe tomorrow. Maybe not. I'll charge my light as well. But yeah. Get a text. Breathe at the punctuation. Make the word at the full stop clear so we can hear the end of the thought. Lean into the verbs. Do a movement for the verbs to get a feeling of it. Slow down for the images. Paint them in your listener's mind. Highlight the keywords. Give them the quality. Suddenly, give them the quality of whatever that word is. And then relate it to the context. and any contrasting bits. We have a bit of contrast going on later on here as well. Make sure we can hear those too, the contrast. Connection, sound, thought, intention. Don't just say the words, but follow the thought so you understand exactly what you're saying when you say it and have an intention behind it. And I feel like he's sort of reminiscing and remembering this time. And perhaps remembering how grief maddened he was. And maybe there's a certain respect behind it. And maybe there's a forlornness too because of how it ends. It never left him, the grief. And on that bombshell, he's come with another one. And there's the full stop. I don't know, whatever. See you on the next one. Like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. See you around. Speechsmiths.